Chapter 13. Miracles do happen. The power of prayers. Prayers were offered for me constantly, and my husband was really a pillar in all this. He never gave up on me. He kept declaring positive things over me, rejecting death and every evil thing in my life. Against all odds, I can say that it blessed me to recover. I was blessed that my parents could pay for the hospitalization and medication expenses. I understand that an approximation of 100,000 US dollars was spent on this event alone. In a few days, they removed the tubes and transferred me to a semi-intensive care unit, and in less than a week, I could return home. This shocked the medical team. The doctor even disclosed to me he had previously treated two other patients with the same condition. One ended up crippled, and the other was left in a vegetative state. It was still a long way to total recovery for me, but I thank God I survived. In the following years, I experienced mild discomforts because of diabetes, but once again, my life was very much stable. I was enjoying my family and the gift of life, which I learned to appreciate even more. Urinary blockage. In late November 2019, the next day, after enjoying a pleasant trip to the beach, at approximately 1 a.m., I woke up with strong pain in my lower abdomen. At first, I thought it was because I needed to relieve myself in the toilet. However, that just made it worse. I felt pain as if I was about to deliver a baby, and my abdomen was huge and hard. I had to wake my husband up and ask for his help. After an hour of taking some tea and praying, I felt a bit better and was able to get back to sleep. By 5 in the morning, I woke up again in double pain. I had the feeling of going to the bathroom to urinate, but I realized I could not. It was as if I was blocked. My abdomen was still huge and hard, and the pain was more intense. I was once again rushed to the emergency room of a small clinic close by. By now, the pain was so horrible, I could not move. When the doctor at the clinic saw my condition, she transferred me to a bigger hospital. There they performed some tests and ultrasound, but the results were inconclusive. I had to stay the night. The pain got worse with every passing hour. They had to put a urinary catheter because I was still blocked. Early the next morning, a different doctor came and inserted a tube from my nose to my abdomen. They started suctioning the content of my abdomen through that tube. At the end of the day, they were still not sure of what was happening. That afternoon, they transferred me to a specialized hospital. Once there, they performed another ultrasound and test. This time, when tests revealed my hemoglobin was at 6 grams. Normal hemoglobin readings are 12 to 15.5 grams. Doctors were not sure what to do because they did not know what was actually causing all these. Another night of pain passed. I had not eaten for 3 days. I was weak and lost hope of finding a solution. Emergency surgery. The next day, a different doctor took my case, and after reading the results and seeing my state, ordered immediate surgery. Once in the operating room, they found out I was bleeding internally due to a burst cyst. They cleared half a liter of blood from my abdomen. It's possible that if that doctor had not shown up that day, I would have died. Recovery from the surgery was speedy, as I was back on my feet in no time. The year 2020 brought even more surprises as the entire world suffered a pandemic. It was pretty much unreal to me until I fell ill in June of that same year. I took all the sanitary precautions and barely left my home. One Saturday morning, I was working on my computer and felt very weak. I told my family I was going to rest a little. A few hours later, I had a very high fever, to the point of making me delirious. I was told about the funny things I said, which included having a party in the kitchen in the late hours of the night. And now, COVID-19. I did not have fever medications at home. I started coughing, lost my appetite and strength. The next day, we went to a private clinic, and I had a blood test. The first diagnosis was that I had dengue. Dengue fever is an illness similar to a terrible flu, and it's caused by a virus usually carried by the mosquito Aedes aegypti. I was a bit relieved because I had previously had dengue and even malaria some years back, and I was sure I would get over it in no distant time. The doctor gave me some medications, but still suggested doing a COVID-19 test to disregard that option. They did not have that test in the clinic, so I had to go to the city. We went to a bigger hospital where there was a long line of people waiting to be tested. I did not have the strength to stand in the line. I was feeling really sick. Seeing my state, they allowed me to be tested first. While waiting, I almost fainted, and they had to take me into the emergency section. God had it that the doctor in charge that day was a former church sister. She immediately recognized me and speeded the test process. She took me into a room and did the test herself. As I waited for the results, she allowed me to rest on the hospital bed. After a while, she came back with the results, but I noticed she kept a suitable distance from me. She did not even enter the room. From a distance, she confirmed a positive test result for COVID-19. I believe that this could be my end, considering my past pathologies. After a while, they took a chest x-ray and did more tests. Although I was not feeling so good, my lungs were clean and there was no need to keep me in the hospital. They sent me home to be in quarantine and gave me paracetamol and cough medication. I know who holds tomorrow. Initially, I was scared, but as I prayed alone in my room, I was determined to make my life count. I did not know what tomorrow would bring for me, but I knew who held my tomorrow. I placed my life in God's hands and recorded my progress and praised God daily. I found encouragement and hope in His Word. My family and church prayer warriors also played a very important role in my recovery. They were not willing to give up without a fight, both physically and spiritually. My family bought all types of medicines that had the slightest possibility of relieving the virus. They had me taking nebulizations twice daily, together with vaporizations, vitamins, and natural teas. Spiritually, those closest to me thought for me in prayers daily. On the second day of the quarantine, my health took a turn for the worst. My body was very weak, and I felt that if I slept off, I wouldn't wake up again. My husband called the ambulance, and while waiting for them to arrive, he called on spiritual warriors to pray along with him for me. It was a matter of life and death. By the time the ambulance came, I had already regained my strength. And although I was not 100% okay, my vital signs were good, and there was no need to take me to the hospital. I believe the prayers before the ambulance came made the difference that day. Day by day, I kept getting better. I got used to taking the natural teas my husband made for me, plus all the other medications. After the quarantine period, I was finally healed of COVID-19 and back to living my life. Further on, I experienced some side effects of the virus, weakness, headache, and others nonetheless. All those lessened until they totally disappeared.